Greetings, my name is Dumiso. I am with Success Capital Organization. Welcome to the third episode for the dialogue series on the road to UHC with the HLMs happening in September. And what's important about this conversation is capturing different perspectives from civil society representatives, health practitioners, and other community members to share some of the experiences in trying to fulfill the right to health, knowing full well that it's not guaranteed in Botswana's constitution, and more importantly, within the context of the Sustainable Development Goals, in ensuring that no one is left behind in SDG 3, and making sure that there are some elements of intersectionality integrated towards ensuring universal health coverage for all. And so we will start with a round of introductions. And so Tosh, may you kindly please introduce yourself and also a little bit about your organization and what it does in 2 or 3 sentences. Tosh, please go ahead. You're on mute.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Tosh Becker, and I'm from Sisonke, Botswana, an organization that is looking at the rights of marginalized population, primarily sex workers, and those sex workers are male, female, and transgendered. I can just say we've been working with, we are in partnership with many organizations, and including MOH.
Thank you very much, Tosh. Huitsi, please introduce yourself and let us know a little bit about your organization and the work that it does in a few sentences.
Hey!
Hey, Latamba, Moyena Jo. Hi, Huitsi, sorry, you're still on mute. Sorry about that.
Okay. All right. Can you hear me now? All right. I'm Huitsi Mudimuditsela from SRHR Africa Trust. I'm a programs officer. What SRHR Africa Trust, in short, SAT does is that we programming around adolescent and young people. We focusing more on their sexual and reproductive health and rights. We also are doing advocacy around gender issues. We also are focusing more on meaningful youth participation. So yeah, that's what we basically do. But we have a large mandate when we consider that we are a regional organization. So I would not touch on what other countries are doing, but only what we cover here in Botswana.
Great, thank you, Huitsi. Maipelo?
Afternoon, everyone. My name is Maipelo Pale from Bukongo. Bukongo is an umbrella organization that coordinates the works of all NGOs that are affiliated to it in Botswana. So our works vary from networking, capacity building, resource mobilizing, and partnerships, And we are also not only in Gaborone, but also in the other parts of the country. Thank you.
Great, thank you so much, Maipelo. And when we speak about universal health coverage, I think it's important for us to recognize it's not just about recognizing health as the absence of disease, but it's really just speaking to elements of well-being, speaking to elements of eliminating vulnerabilities, eliminating costs, out-of-pocket costs in terms of trying to access healthcare, and more importantly, ensuring that individuals don't have to find themselves, in conflict in between, some of the decision making that's needed between sustaining livelihood and buying medicine. And so that being said, Tosh, what do you think are some of the more challenging experiences for sex workers to access healthcare within, not only Gaborone as the capital city, but also in some of the more remote areas where you also do some work? Tosh, please go ahead.
Oh, thank you, Director of Ceremonies. As an organization that is working with sex workers, we do work with some of the health facilities in different districts, namely Mahalape, Palape, Pikwe, Francis Town, Kasane, Bohansi, you name them. But what we have experienced when working with the healthcare workers is that today, Minister of Health will be we'll be conducting the what we call sensitizing the healthcare workers in terms of the sex work issues. And then after a year, that person is transferred to another district whereby our members do not have access to that clinic or health post. So to us, it's a challenge. And what we've also experienced when it comes to sexual reproductive health rights, I think we still have an issue in regards to some of the healthcare workers who have their own beliefs and their own religions. There's a point whereby there was another one who was trained, and then they just decided that they do not want to work with a group of sex workers because of their beliefs. So these are some of the challenges that we see as an organization. I don't know if I can.
Yeah, no, thank you so much, Tosh. I will then turn to you, Huizi, and basically just ask, with some of the experiences that you've had more recently in contributing towards the Universal Periodic Review, I think many of us often can't link, human rights with SRHR. I mean, we understand there was a human rights-based approach to HIV that included, key populations and ensured that they can be, better equitable ways of ensuring access to treatment and ensuring health promotion and prevention. More importantly, what does that mean for SRHR in sort of making sure that, the rights aspect can be fulfilled, especially knowing the right to health in Botswana is not a guarantee in our constitution. Huizi, please go ahead.
Dumi, I think let me start off by trying to give an insight of where I think there is lack. I think when it comes to adolescent and young people and human rights, we basically are focusing more into providing for the majority. However, I've realized with the UPR that we were leaving out the key populations. We're leaving out the young people living with disability. They were not catered for. And it's like we are not covering their rights. Even when we made the recommendations, it came out very clear that even when we requested during the UPR processes, we requested for the increase of financing for adolescent and young people's health, specifically commodities or commodities for SRH, like contraceptives, PrEP, PEP, and all those. However, we never realized that there is a problem. There is a gap when it comes to knowledge in the young people living with a disability. They are not able, even though we are providing knowledge for them, we are providing youth-wise, we have a gap where we are saying so many organizations are not programming for young people with disability. So I believe human rights, when we advocate, we are supposed to cover everyone and leave no one behind. But this is one of the gaps that we are not covering. Even in schools, we are not even considering young people who are living with disability. It's one of the issues that we covered when we also were talking about, I think, the meeting where we attended the HIV symposium. There was the human rights aspect of it, and they kept on insisting that, you know what, as much as we are pushing for equality, equity, and everything for everyone in the villages, in the rural places, don't forget those young people who are disadvantaged, especially those who are in the rural places and those who are living with disability. They are double disadvantaged, if I may say. No one is even thinking about them, that there is a young person living with disability in a rural place, because that the one who is in an urban area is more advantaged as compared to them. So how about them? Are they getting all the services that they are supposed to be getting? When we look at the statistics, they're showing us that teenage pregnancy is more significant in the rural places as compared in the cities. However, there was a presentation which highlighted that young people are leading when it comes to abortion cases. Can you believe an adolescent as young as 10 to 15? They are committing abortion as we speak. And what are we saying about that? No one is there to give them the contraceptives that they need. The government is not financing them. And the government does not allow abortion except in certain circumstances when it's rape or it's incest or it's threatening the life of a mother. But what about my right as a young person? I don't want this baby. I want to go to school. And if I can't go to school, then it means I'll have to get pregnant because you can't provide contraceptives. Then this young person living with disability is saying, I can't get information to start with. If I can't get information, I go to the clinic, I can't get a nurse who can do sign language. So it means the third person is breaching my privacy. And if there is not the third person, then I have to write down, which takes more time. And if the nurse is not nice enough, if we don't have a youth-friendly nurse, then it becomes worse. They get raped, they can't report. They don't access services. They don't even have access to services. They don't even have access to information to start with. So those are some of the things that the challenges that we picked. Those are some of the recommendations we made when we are doing the UPR report, the one that we submitted.
Thank you so much, Kwiti. I mean, you're highlighting so many issues, and the breadth and depth of issues, it's very clear that one organization wouldn't be able to address all these, issues. Number two, that it needs a multi-sectoral approach. So the right to health can only ever be fulfilled when we include social workers, when we include, different sectors, inclusive of, gender machinery, the police, and so forth. And so I will then sort of, turn to my pillow. As an umbrella body, some of these issues are quite distinct. And, we know that they're not just limited to one locale, so not one village. And I think, in the broader context of a lot of conversations, we know we've been trying to accelerate conversations around the Sustainable Development Goals, especially in ensuring that no one is left behind. But I think, and we all know, the center of power is in Gaborone, the capital is, Gaborone, and, the majority of headquarters for so many organizations is in Gaborone. How can we ensure that, the right to health can not only just be fulfilled, but replicated in the same way that someone can access services for phase 2 in Gaborone, that someone in Palape, someone in Sodre, someone in Soa, someone in the far ends of Chukumuchu can be able to access the same kinds of services and not have to spend out-of-pocket costs, can be able to have the same quality of care, knowing full well some of the challenges we experienced during the COVID pandemic. Maipelo?
Thank you, Dumi, for the question. But I think, like I always say, three sectors, all the three sectors, that is government, civil society, and the private sector, should be working together for the common good of, the citizenry. So where the other sector is falling short, the other one should be complementary to it. For example, government do have resources, and as civil society, the people are there. I mean, everywhere there are people. You can't get short of people anywhere. Wherever you go, you'll find people. Wherever you go, you'll find an NGO somewhere around the corner, even where government services do not even reach. So what we are saying, or what we always advocate for, is that government should, provide resources to NGOs so that NGOs can be able to get the service can be cascaded to the very people that are at grassroots level, where government can't reach, or when government manpower is short. So that is what we always advocate for, to share the resources that are there, because at the end of the day, what we want, all of us, or all the sectors, that what we want is to better the service, or the service to reach out to the people that we represent. Thanks.
I'll have just a quick follow-up, Maipelo. In terms of the constitutional review process, we recognize that there were quite a few things that might have fallen short, that are not reflective to civil society perspectives. But we also know what generally, as the population, there was some gaps in terms of human rights knowledge or literacy that was perpetuating some inequities, for different communities. So how do we bridge some of these divides, knowing full well, in order to fulfill a human rights approach to achieving sustainable development goals, we can't leave anyone behind, but still, even within the context of harmful gender norms, even in the context of high gender-based violence, in the context of excluding, persons with disabilities and other vulnerable communities, we know that communities can also have certain perceptions that leave other sectors of our communities behind. How do you think that we can encourage, a culture of human rights literacy, a culture of setho, in our very own embedded culture that is reflective of, the African value of botho? How can we encourage a bit of that, particularly even in important processes such as the constitutional review?
Yeah, I think we have lost the social bonds, or social bonds are every day raising, and it's me. This perspective of individualism really is it has taken us where we are, where we don't cherish the next person that is next to you. But I think, again, public education also is key, because for somebody to actually know that something has been violated, or the rights are violated, they have to have a position of knowing how are they violated. So as civil society organization, I think, we have to hit the core to take out the information to the people who really need it, so that they can be informed of their rights, so that they can know when their rights are violated, so that they can know what to do when they are violated, so they can know where to go when their rights are violated, so that where they go also, if their rights are violated or they are not helped in an adequate manner, they know what to do, where to go. So I think we need to also, be very intentional about, taking public education to the people, especially around issues of human rights, so that they know, and also to keep the duty bearers, at so duty bearers, so that they know that there are onlookers there, social accountability, transparency, that these are the principles that should be embedded in whatever that they do, so that when you go to ask for to be provided with a service, you should be there knowing that you are there to get help, because somebody's getting paid for them to provide their service to you. So I think, public education really is key, so that we go out. But I know with civil society organization, our outcry is always resources. But I mean, there's a lot that we can be able to do when we are united, when we speak with a collective voice. There are a lot that we can be able to impact on people's lives, so that they can change for the better good.
Thank you so much, Maipelo. I will then, turn back to Huitzi in terms of, how do we encourage accountability? How do we ensure that whether it's state budget, how do we ensure whether it's, certain allocations within the context of DHMTs or whatever it is, how do we ensure transparency and how do we ensure that citizens can actually participate in ensuring that, I am included as someone who's from an ethnic minority, or I as a migrant don't need to then turn to a CSO that will take the government to court to ensure I've got access to services and care. How can we enable an environment where citizens can be able to participate, whether it is through the Kotla system or whether it's through the village development committees, the gender machinery in country? How can we encourage citizens to at least know that, what, if I'm not getting adequate health services or there isn't information that I'm receiving, especially in maybe a format that I need, such as Braille, how can, what are some of those avenues in Botswana, instead of just going to, let's say, for instance, Geneva for the Universal Periodic Review? How do we encourage that culture for accountability in ensuring that, all residents in Botswana can be able to access quality health services and care? Huitzi?
Dumi, that's a tricky one though. Accountability, especially when you are to engage the general public, it's very it's not really complex. It's doable, but what I think we need to do, it's first of all is to give people knowledge. If we give people knowledge to know that their rights, to know what the government is supposed to provide and how they are supposed to be treated, that's when they can hold the government accountable. Secondly, we have a civil society organization which has the responsibility of informing or educating these young people. For as long as they have problems with the resources, there's still going to be some gaps. For as long as we still have the government that is not willing to share information, as in some people right now, they don't know that the office of the ombudsman is there for them to go and say, I feel my rights were violated here. If somebody in Kwe doesn't know about the office of the ombudsman, then there is a problem. Why? Because we have the problem that we're getting in Botswana is that we have so many civil society organizations working around the capital city and urban places, leaving out the rural places. Why are they doing that? Because they have limited resources. So for them, for us to make sure that the public hold the government accountable, they first of all they need to know what is right and what is wrong. And they need to know the available resources that we have. Right now, we have our budget speeches being read out there. And just an ordinary Motswana doesn't know what a budget speech is. They know that, okay, somebody will tell them the money is being divided into different ministries. Then what? They don't know how much is going where. And who is there to educate them? Who is there to tell them that actually Ministry of Health is getting the largest budget? And within that largest budget, as a young person, what does it mean to me? When you tell me that there are no condoms, when I know the ministry got the money, where do I go? Where do I report to? Do I go to the matron? Do I go to the nurse? Do I go? But we are here, we don't have platforms. The government is not providing enough platforms. The government is not holding the responsible or the authorities accountable to say, anyway, they are the authorities. It's not holding those people who are within power, who are the duty bearers, I would say, accountable to say, tell the people how much we have, how much has been spent where, and because all this information is there, it's not shared anywhere. Even a civil society organization to get the information is very difficult. We don't even have online or platforms where this information should be shared. So to ensure accountability, another thing that I think we need to show people the importance of going to the elections. When you vote, how are you going to vote? What exactly the candidate that you are voting, what exactly have you learned from them? How have they contributed to your knowledge? How have they contributed to your village? Like, they need to know to that depth and stop taking this t-shirts and everything that they're being bought with, so that they know that they can actually hold the people in position accountable. So it's a very tricky one if we are to engage. However, another important thing that we need to do is to teach young people the power of activism, because that on its own, it can force the government to listen to them. Be it activism, whether an online campaign, whether a demonstration, or any other way of activism, using social media as well for trying to advocate. It's one powerful way of engaging the government to say, you know what, we've had enough of this. We want 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I think that's what I can actually share right now.
Thank you so much, Huitsi. Tosh, I think, yeah, we know the challenges around community health services, the fact that, resources are a significant challenge. And I think, the challenge now is not just necessarily at a community health perspective, but also as a country, because the country status says we're higher middle income. And then there's this aspiration to say, we want to go and become, a high income country. And so that obviously means, one, we can't necessarily get development assistance, but also we don't, qualify for certain kinds of grants and, funding opportunities that can help advance, sexual reproductive health rights issues, sex worker rights issues, LGBTI rights issues, because of that, country economy status. And I think, it's even more significant given the fact that there's high levels of inequality, Momojan. So what for you do you think is key in, trying to sort of build or, address the challenges around resourcing? And if there are, specific challenges, please do name them. And maybe, just highlight what, is key to sort of address some of those challenges around resourcing, community health work for, key populations or vulnerable groups. Tosh?
Yes, thank you, Dumi. I think hella, as CSOs, we need, the government has to include us when inclusion of CSOs when the budget is being prepared, not gore beta gote budget dirlo ko re diretse budget, we were not even there ha budget dirwa go ra go ngathelwa di peanuts. Ke gona mo go heletsang gantsi go dira gore e be re sa khone go heletsa re khona go hetsa the implementation part. Kana ha gongwe in most cases CSOs we tell gore ga di anelwa anything. If we can be included in the budget making, because we know what we want. Sabobedi, we should be in forefront as CSOs. I think for me it's very important gore enne rona re nang ko pele ha go develop all those budgets. And then thirdly, ha ke tsora ke taba ke tswa mo line, as CSOs we have this mentality about the big brothers and that. So we need to refrain from those big brothers. For example, let's say what's your Bokongo will come and get the big slice because I create a big brother. If we can refrain from that equally, I think the resources will be shared accordingly. Yeah, and then I'm going to be talking about I'm going to be talking, sorry about that. I'm going to be talking about the what can be done in terms of addressing the challenges it's on health. I think we need to be advocating for the universal access to health services, including primary health care, labor HIV and sexual reproductive health services. And we also need to be challenging stigma and discrimination against sex workers, their families, partners, and others involved in sex work. I'm saying sex work because I'm dealing with sex workers, and I know how they experience a lot of stigma and discrimination. And we also need to be advocating for the economic empowerment and social inclusion of sex workers. I think for me, if we can add those three elements, then we can win. And lastly, I think if you guys can advocate for me to be there in your parliament as an advocate for the rights of sex workers, I can do that better.
Thank you so much, Tosh. And I think, yes, one example was in our own, constitutional review process, where we then obviously tapped Sisonke to join us in that process. And I think it was quite successful, given the many questions that the commission, gave, and, even having a sex worker speak and be able to answer, the former Chief Justice during that session. I will then turn to UHC. In terms of just, what are the top 3 recommendations that you believe government should, commit to, and, not only just, to ensure that element of accountability, but also to safeguard, and make sure that the right to health can be fulfilled, knowing that there are certain shortcomings. We obviously can't, go through any litigation processes at the moment, but at least when we know that we can do some work towards fulfilling the right to health, and we know that there's some avenues, there's some policies that do enable some of these elements. What do you recommend as, should be the avenues or the processes, whether it's, policy, whether it's political, whether it's legislative, or whether it's programming, to improve the right to health for everyone, and more particularly young people and adolescents? UHC?
First of all, I would recommend that we take the I don't know, I don't have light as well. Yeah, I think it's much better. The one of the things that I would recommend is the bottom-up approach to me, because in Botswana we have a tendency of bringing things to people that they don't understand. We don't have their views. We don't even listen to the CSO. If we could learn to listen to the people who are on the ground, the CSOs that are working on the ground, the village development community, and the young people who are on the ground, everyone who is on the ground, if we can always, all the time, whether we are doing a policy or we are doing programming, start there so that we understand their issues at the bottom, then we will be able to know what they need and where. So if we could actually start by changing that, because we have a tendency of having these workshops, these conferences in Gaborone and everywhere, and we are leaving the real issues and real people in the ground who knows what is needed and where. That approach on its own would work. Secondly, one other thing that the government really needs to do, because we know we have limited chances of getting external funding because we are an upper middle country. What a government needs to do is to ensure that he strengthen the accountability mechanism, which are, I would say, the monitoring and evaluation of the projects, and try to reduce the corruption that we see that is rising within the country. So if we could have mechanisms that are measuring the progress, the development that we are getting, then we will be able to know how to channel or how to distribute the resources, where to take them. Because if you look at the country, how it is right now, just the last week we were talking about 1.6% of the GDP going to HIV programming. But if 1.6 of the GDP is going to HIV programming, where are the condoms? Where is the PrEP? Where is the PEP? That means someone somewhere is not doing their job. There was a point where we had shortage of ARVs, and people cannot afford not to have all these things, because we already are compromising the budget. If we are going to have shortage of condoms, we are compromising the budget because HIV incidence is going to go up. That means more people being enrolled in the HIV, the ART program. If we are going to limit who is getting the PrEP and who is getting the PEP, then it means young people are going to be exposed to this, or let me say the general public is going to be exposed to being at high risk of getting HIV. And that means it's going to even increase that 1.6% that they are talking about. So that on its own, if we could get the government to strengthen its mechanisms of trying to measure progress and see where the resources are going so that we reduce corruption, then I believe we can go far. Another thing is the triple P. The public partnership, I think the private public partnership, yeah, triple P. I need the government to make a deliberate effort to force the private sector to put their hand in the health financing. Because as much as we are crying and say there are no resources, what is where is the private sector in all this? Because they are part of this. Health, we are talking about everyone. We cannot exclude the private sector from funding the government to try and leverage to see where there are gaps. So I think if we could strengthen the triple P, then we will go far. Those are the 3 recommendations that I would really say we need to work on.
Thank you so much, Khwitsi, and very comprehensive and important. And so, yeah, I will turn to you, Mike, below. What are the recommendations to help ensure that, the SDGs can be fulfilled, that they leave no one behind? More importantly, that, all communities, regardless of where they are across Botswana, can be included in that journey towards 2030.
Yeah, I think my starting point would be, civil society organization, they link government and the people. And also that are a vital voice for human rights. When civil society is deranged or not satisfied, it means that we lose an essential forum for dialoguing, where we could be able to speak about issues. And you also lose the essence of democracy, because without having safe space or safe platforms where people can voice their concerns, then it means that we are not talking nothing, we are not talking democracy, we are not talking livelihood, we are not talking change. So it means that we will lose that essence of of us dialoguing, and we lose the essence of why civil society at the first place is there, because we drive different mandates. So that is why all the time I advocate at every possible opportunity for the protection and expansion of civic space, because we need to jealously guard against the civic space, because it's shrinking every day. It's shrinking because government is intentional about it by reducing, the support that they are according to civil society organization. But I think the 3 recommendation would be one, SDG financing, because a lot of NGOs, their work or is reliant on programs, which most cases or not, there is no element of SDG implementation in them. So we need government to be intentional, even our partners, UN, to be intentional about the involvement of civil society, so that they can also accomplish and embed and align with SDGs into that programming. That is, finance SDGs intentionally. Not to say, civil society, you need to be speaking on this, when they know that they haven't made any provision for civil society to take part, when they have funds elsewhere. And I don't know where do they think civil society is getting these funds when they haven't even made provision for, because already the ground is not leveled. And then the second thing will be, the issues of partnership where the three society are working together, because the person that you want to better is a Motswana out there, is an ordinary Motswana out there in somewhere in the outskirts of Gaborone. You know, that is the very person that we want to cascade SDG domestication to, and to see that they're aligned, so that when we speak 2030, we don't only speak to the urban dwellers, but we speak to the general populace across board. And the other would be capacity building. I think there is still a lack of knowledge around SDGs as a general. You know, we need to be to take the SDGs to the people, so that we can see that, one, does Botswana conform to the international standards that it sets, or it has signed to the international treaties. Two, as a country, have we domesticated whatever treaties that we have signed? Three, how aligned are we, and how is the implementation process is? I think for me, those would be the recommendations that I'll put forth. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Maipelo. And so I think, we've touched on so many different elements and facets. And I think, that's the whole spirit of, inclusivity. It's the spirit of collaboration and partnerships. And I think these are all the underpinnings of, ensuring, the interconnectedness and interdependence of the sustainable development goals. And more importantly, I think it then showcases the indivisibility of human rights. So Tosh, and you came in just at the right time, what are three, key recommendations that you'd have for the government to improve the situation for sex workers in Botswana? Go ahead, Tosh.
Okay, let me apologize for that disappearing act. I think I had technical problems. I think the first recommendation for all these troubles is for the government of Botswana to decriminalize sex work in Botswana, because in all our efforts, even if we can try, we've been trying for more than 15 years, more than decades, but if there is no decriminalization of sex work, then I don't think all these recommendations that we've been recommending for so long will ever be heard. First, the decriminalization. Secondly, inclusion of male, female, and transgender SWs. Maybe one SW as a parliamentarian, so that SW who is in the parliament can voice the voice of the voiceless, especially the Jatus. Those are my three recommendations.
Thank you, Tosh. And so, yes, one final word from everyone. Let's just start with you, Tosh, in terms of, how can we galvanize other civil society to ensure that commitments such as political declaration towards UHC, but more importantly, those that are legally binding, such as, the Universal Periodic Review, the Convention on the Elimination of Discrimination Against Women, that these commitments can, they can be fulfilled, right? That we can ensure that civil society can be at the forefront for making sure that there's knowledge, can be at the forefront for making sure that government is accountable, and more importantly, that no one is then left behind in ensuring accountability and ensuring that a lot of these commitments can be fulfilled in the experiences of our people.
Well, for me, I think let's keep on educating ourselves more, because there's nothing like now I'm well educated. We educate ourselves every time. For me, education can also work for us. And there's nothing about us without us. So we need to be, and we need to take responsibility in everything. If we need to take our government responsible, we need to do that in terms of like the Abuja Declaration. When it comes to the health, we need to take our government accountable. If there's something that they are not doing correctly, yet we know that they signed the treaties. I think education will be more better in our position. We need to educate ourselves more.
Thank you so much, Tosh. Huitsi, how can we ensure that we're not working in silos? How can we galvanize other civil society to ensure that, that we can galvanize, we can, challenge some of the shortcomings, and then more importantly, complement a lot of the commitments that the government commits the country to?
Dumi, I don't think I got you. My network is a bit of a problem.
Yeah, so I was just saying, how can we eliminate silos? How can we ensure that there's cross-movement building? How can we encourage civil society to galvanize around the commitments that are made at national, regional, and global levels?
Dumi, one thing that I need to highlight before I go into that one is that civil society, the problem with Botswana is that they are afraid of holding the government accountable because the government is the same one that is funding them. So for as long as they're still being funded by the government, there's still going to be silos and fighting for the limited resources, and that's what is causing all these silos. But how can we improve that? We have this government that is funding the projects that are being implemented by CSOs. So if we could have the civil society coming into board and strengthening their network, which is supposed to be Bonaso, is supposed to be is it Bonaso, and I forgot the other one. This is a network of organizations. If we could ensure that all these networks are operating, because right now as we speak they don't operate, they are not they are there, the name is there, but they don't include all the organizations. So if we could have some mechanisms that are strengthening these networks, then we will be able to hold the government accountable, especially in making sure that the government is compliant to the treaties that they have signed. Because as an individual organization, it's not easy to move the government to say, go and do this, don't do this, go and do this, don't do this. So I think that's my take. We need to strengthen the networks of the civil society organizations and make sure that they are the ones, they come as one voice and push the government, even though the government is the one that is giving them the money.
Thank you so much, Huitsi. Maipelo, I will give you a right of reply before you give, some insight in terms of how civil society can be galvanized around these different commitments. I think, there are two issues that have, emerged. Obviously, the one is, the reference around maybe, network organizations being, the bigger brother or bigger sister, acknowledging, yes, there are some inequities and maybe there might be some challenges that are really quite pertinent to resourcing. Such as, infrastructure, such as organizational development systems and so forth. But also, I think there's one other element that has just been raised, obviously, by Huitsi, in terms of some of the challenges that come with, being part of networks, or coming with, funding mechanisms and being able to have to now work and navigate some of those systems, because I think there might be power dynamics that are there. And so, what is your perspective around that? That's a right to reply. And then, yes, more importantly, how can we ensure and galvanize that civil civil society can really galvanize and, let's say extend solidarity to each other in ensuring and making sure that, all of the different areas that we work, whether it's climate justice, reproductive justice, universal health coverage, community health, can really, have that element of solidarity and break down some of the silos to ensure that spirit of Botho across board for, all Botswana's lives.
Yes, I think I think the issue of government funding civil society. I was in a workshop earlier. I said to them, "There's nothing wrong with that," because who is government to start with, and this money, where is it coming from? Whose money is this? Is it not Botswana money? Is it not our taxes? That when you say government is funding civil society, then I said yes, because we have the right to that money, because that money is ours to start with, because even now the BDP is the one that is in government, that is the government that is of the day. But when UDC comes, that money they will be able to also use, so that shows that the money is not for the government of the day, but the money is to do the works that have been planned in the NDPs. So, and every month, we pay tax to BURS. So some of that money is put towards all these national development plans that are supposed to, help with our architecture and our infrastructure, so that as a country we can progress with the times. So there's nothing wrong with government funding civil society. They have to actually fund civil society, so that civil society can give them that aspect of social accountability, because there is no one to hold government accountable. Of course, yes, they have institutions of oversight and all that, but when you look at them, these are still technocrats. They are government employees. So the only objective, neutral partner or sector that can give government the run to do the things that they're supposed to do is civil society organizations. So we shouldn't even at any point think that government is doing us a favor by actually funding us. They have to. And when they are not doing that, it's actually a red flag, even to our international standards, or even to the onlookers of the UN or international platforms, that they will be so surprised that government is not according resources to civil society organization. So people should be informed about that aspect, so that they know that government is not doing us a favor, but actually they are supposed to actually do that, because it is a recommendation and a prerequisite, for them to actually put aside resources for civil society organization. So, and then when it comes to us civil society, because of course, with this labeling of us being a middle income and donors, fleeing Botswana and then going elsewhere. Imagine a country like South Africa. It has more donors than Botswana. But when you look at the infrastructure, the architect, when you look at even the livelihood, you will see that South Africa is more progressive than Botswana in all aspects. You look at the economy, you look at the roads, you look at, the separation of powers, how they do things. You will see that we are still lagging behind. But they are not defined as a middle income country, or they refuse to be defined as one, because they know what that means. It will have so many implications in the way that they're supposed to even attract donors or investors into their country. So that labeling, really, for them, it's nothing, because they know where they want to go and how they are going to progress getting there. But with us, we are too forward in trying to be labeled to get a certain status when we haven't worked for it, when we are only using one indicator, which is the economic aspect of it, of course, of us having beef, us having diamonds. But what about the other indicators? We have social indicators, that we have to look at that socially as a country, where are we? But we look at only one indicator that is giving us a false classification. That is why we are here. And then now when it comes to civil society organization, this thing of competing with each other and not complementing each other, that is the one thing that is making us so fragmented. Because whether government has pushed us to that corner to actually do that, because we are fighting for funders, but we cannot do nothing alone. When we work in silos, when you don't work as a collective, there is no impact that you are going to be able to make, They won't, because the other one, we are speaking about the same thing. The other one, there is on issues of GBV. The other one at the corner, another GBV. And then when you look at it, all these resources were supposed to be put together, to say, let us have a forum, an agent forum, where collectively we can take all the issues that we are decrying about to government as a collective, but not today. A Success Capital says something, Sosonke says something, Bonella says something, but as a collective, we use the secretariat, which is Bokongo, that to speak on our behalf on these issues. We feed them with what they are supposed to be speaking to, so that we speak with a unified voice, so that when we do, we know that our voice will reach the ears that it should reach. But now when another one speaks in Mulapula, the other one speaks in Madinari, I mean, there is no, they can even see that there is no coordination, there is no uniformity, there is no consistency, in the way that we even advocate, because we have to have an advocacy plan where we know how certain issues should be reacting towards. We shouldn't be reactive, but we should be proactive. Some of the things we should be doing them before government has done them. For example, the APRM report, civil society was at the forefront to doing that. Now they're falling behind. They'll have to benchmark from civil society. The budgetary processes, for the first time, we saw civil society, putting their guns blazing, taking part in that particular process. So these are some of the things that we want civil society to be able to do, not to be reactive, and also, also come up about also with, initiatives of how we can be able to sustain ourselves. Social enterprise is one of the issues, one of the incentives that we can be able to, read a lot around to see how we can be able to sustain ourselves and not really depend on no one, either government or even donors, because sometimes they also change our narratives. Our narratives goes to where the calls, what the calls are saying. Sometimes we lose even ourselves from donors. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much, Maipilo. And I think, you mentioned something that I think is quite critical. Well, several things, but more importantly is recognizing that everyone pays tax. Even amidst a highly unequal country, the reality is that there's an informal sector, and the fact that people don't just pay tax at the end of the month. We pay tax in the form of VAT, levies, and so many other elements, and that is something that we should recognize, and that we must recognize that we should expect respect. We should expect our rights to be fulfilled, and more importantly, that there's nothing wrong with actually seeking accountability and laying claim to some of those elements. And I think, we must recognize that, inequality costs, criminalization costs. That's why some of these social parameters that you alluded to, are very relevant and valid. And, we mustn't just wait for the World Bank or, whatever other opportunities, such as, a high-level meeting on UHC, to have these kinds of conversations so that we can really, not only be adequately prepared when the opportunities arise, but also to ensure that there's continuity in conversations such as these. So that being said, I really appreciate every one of you participating. Thank you so much for being a part of this conversation, and hopefully this can be one of the many and more important milestones in ensuring that we can not only contribute as a country, but also ensure that there's accountability beyond the high-level meeting on universal health coverage. Thank you so much, Tosh. Thank you so much, Maipilo. Thank you, Huitsi. May you all have a lovely evening.
Bye. Thank you.